All right. Well, good morning, everybody. I hope everybody has already had a good start to their Sunday, May 18th. I hope that you guys let me know if you guys can hear me okay. It looks like it's coming through fine on my end, but I'm going to pop in the chat there. I hope everybody's doing really well. You guys, I always appreciate everybody who takes some time to join me, but just let me know if somebody would pop down there in the chat and let me know if my audio is coming through clearly. So, good morning. Oh, the White Mountains. Oh, David, man, you're lucky. We live in similar habitats somewhat. I'm in the Sky Islands. You've got a little bit more north, but oh man, I've only been through there, I think 2 times. I'd love to get over there and photograph some more. So, good morning, man. Glad to have you joining me from Arizona. And hello, there you are. I see one of my fellow sufferers from Florida who put up with me on some teaching. Well, hey, listen, guys, so glad to have you all joining me today. We're going to be talking OM system menus, nature photography, bird and flight photography. I've got a lot of different topics lined up. So, hey, I see Tennessee. There we go. Great. Oh, man, it's always so good to see where people are from. So, I don't know about y'all. I'm still having some nice, cool weather. In fact, I had to get up a minute ago and turn my fan down. If you guys probably won't hear it, the microphones are pretty good about cutting out the surrounding noise. Oh my gosh, Serge from France. Hey, I got Rob from Wyoming. Good to see you guys. Rob is a participant in my OM system mentorship program, which I'm going to be talking about. But I got the French doors on the back open. I've got the sliding glass doors open. Nice cross breeze. It's probably, I don't know, mid to upper 60s or something. Hey, George, good morning, sir. Well, I got good news. Well, it may be good news. I'll assume it's good news. I'm going to try to do one YouTube live a month. Okay. Again, that may or may not be good news. As I like to describe myself, guys, Lee Hoyer, generally friendly OM system ambassador. So I'm really excited about trying to do this once a month because I believe it gives you guys a chance to ask some specific questions. You know, when I'm preparing and doing a video for upload, that's awesome. And I enjoy doing that. But, you know, it's generally one topic or a very tight knit group of topics. And that's great. It's helpful, and I get really good feedback from y'all. But the nice thing about a live is it gives you guys a chance to ask questions, to engage, participate in ways. So, very excited to have you guys here this morning. I have been working feverishly on some new online training. Okay, I am going to start doing more things on my own. For a variety of reasons. And I see Terry from El Paso, so she's the closest. And Alfonso, hey man, good to see you from Spain, dude. I love my European fans. I've got so many that I'm really interested in trying to put together a OM system only workshop in the future in Europe. I think that would be awesome. There's still some great wildlife in some specific spots. So let's talk about that. But I've been working like crazy to get together part 3 of my OM system mentorship program. That's going to be the post-processing part. I'm going to be updating part 1. I'm currently on I have my second and third group going through part 1 right now and looking at some things I'm going to update for that. One nice thing, guys, if you are a participant in the mentorship program, you will forevermore have access to updated notes, updated videos, Zoom recordings from groups after you. So you'll be able to learn as I update things and change things. So it's a ton of information, and I'll talk more about that later. But I want to jump right into talking a little bit about the OM system menus. Now, you know, I'm going to be talking about the menus as it relates primarily to OM1, OM1 Mark II, and the OM3. Okay. You know, I know the M1X, the 5, the 10 has a completely different, Mark IV has a completely different graphical user interface. So let me jump into a menu item right now. And I see Brian's asked a question about the 150 to 600. Brian, I'll answer that right after I talk about the menu. So I'm going to swap cameras for a second, guys, and I'm going to go over some tips. This is just a little peek at what we talk about in the mentorship program. Okay, so let me show you. This is, whoops, I don't want that one. Let's get to a reasonable approach. And okay, how's my audio now? Is it back? It should be back. I realized I hid my other camera. Somebody hop in there and let me know. Hey, Matt, I see you joined me from Alpine. Is my audio back? Okay, so is my audio back right now? Somebody let me know if I'm back. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, so if I show this one and I swap, let me try to, how about now? Is my audio showing up? Let me know if you guys can still hear me. Okay, good. I'm going to assume that you guys can still hear me. Okay, excellent. Okay, so let me back up and talk about this again. We need to use our front dial to quickly access the top menu tabs. So up at the top of your OM1, your OM1 Mark II, or your OM3, you're going to have these menu tabs, okay? These are your main menu tabs. Tip number one, learn the colors, okay? They are color-coded. Now, I'm going to say this is probably supposed to be yellow. I call this like baby turd yellow. It's kind of that yellowish green that is going to make me, oh, it says I'm gone again, huh? I am not sure why it's doing that. Let's try this. Okay, so some of y'all can still hear me while I'm showing the menu. Okay, so some of y'all can still hear me. Okay, so Terry, that might be on your end. I don't know. So let's make sure. Thank you guys for the feedback. Okay, so we've got baby turd yellow green for the camera menu 1. And camera menu 1, guys, is basic settings all the way throughout. Think of camera menu 1 as your foundational photography elements. So we've got in camera menu 1, you're going to see your picture mode, so color related items, white balance, ISO and noise reduction, exposure, metering, all foundational stuff, flash, drive mode, image stabilization. So camera menu 1 is foundational items. Baby, poop, yellow, green, okay? So your mind will start to think about these colors, and you'll just, as much as seeing the icons, which this one is camera 1, you'll also start to think of colors. So camera menu 2 is somewhat of a purple, I'm going to go with purple on computational modes. So computational modes are like one-off items. They're very unique items that you're only going to use these for photography occasionally, like focus bracketing, like digital teleconverter, right? Interval shooting, live graduated neutral density filter. So think of purple, camera 2. I only need to go in there for very unique features, okay? I like having it near the front. Some of you may put some of these items in your My menu, but the reality is I know for computational feature items, I either have them programmed to buttons or I can quickly get in this menu item. So that's camera 2. Autofocus is green. So forest green, we're going to go focus on nature photography. Think of it like that. Everything to do with autofocus. And in the OM1, it has 6 pages, and the on one marked 2, it has 7. Okay. Almost identical menu items. They just rearranged where they're at for some of them, not many. Okay. I think the biggest difference, if I remember, is like page 3 and 4. So forest green is autofocus. Now, to move within a main menu tab, master using that rear dial. That rear dial, okay, will get you quickly from one menu page to another, and the front dial is going to jump main menu tab. So front dial, main menu tab, rear dial, menu page. Occasionally, I will use the directional pad to go from page to page. The downside is you often inadvertently hit the OK button and even the joystick, okay? And when you do that, you're going to jump in areas of the menu you're not trying to go. So it's better to master your dials. That will get you there much quicker, okay? So forest green, autofocus. The next main menu tab, I don't know. We'll call this peach. I don't know. The ladies can correct me. Orange. It's not a great orange. It's not a great peach. We'll call it something. I'm sure there's some lady that knows the exact beautiful color on the color wheel for this. But video, guys, you are going to go in here if you are serious about doing cinematic type photography. You know, if you're going to stream or you're going to record video in a true cinematic way, then this is where you need to go. Otherwise, it's probably not something you'll mess. Terracotta, Elizabeth nailed it, and I am not going to argue with her. We will go with terracotta, okay? Now, and that icon video is really nice and easy to follow. The next one is kind of the universal icon for playback. If you look on your TV remote, you know, if you look on all kinds of things, this is the universal icon. And here's a little tip. The blue on the menu matches some of the blue buttons or tiny blue icons on your camera. That is trying to tell you that that button or that icon is what it does when you're doing image playback. So the color of the menu and the color of the icons or buttons on your camera, they are correlated. There's a relationship there, okay? So image playback, most of these settings are like what I call one and dones. You do them and you never need to go in there again. The next main menu item is operations, gold. I don't know. You guys can correct me, but it's the gear. This has some of the most important settings, and this is where you do a lot of customization, okay? And because we're talking about the menu, let me tell you about one of the key ones. Page 2, operations, under menu cursor settings. Those 3 are key settings for you. Okay. I'm not going to go over them in detail because that's what mentorship program does. But just know that there are some menu items that help you on how to get through your menu. But many of these are not one and done. Some are. There's a mix. Now, you may see some of my items grayed out because I'm connected to an HDMI cable. Whoops, see, I just moved my camera and messed up the connection. Okay. So gold or whatever color you guys want to come up with, but learning these icons and what you find in there. Like I know off the top of my head that this page 4 is where I turn on highlight and shadow alerts for both the LCD and the electronic viewfinder. I go to that page so often in people's cameras. The next main menu item, we'll call it pink. And this is the setup or the wrench. So the title of this is setup. It's a wrench. And many of these are one and dones, okay? So the more you get to know one and dones, but the problem with one and dones is you go in there and you set it, but then you don't remember where it's at because maybe it's a while before you go back in there. And that's where your My Menu comes into play, and it helps you out a lot, okay? So many of these are one and dones, except things like your clock. If you travel a lot, you're going to want to probably save that to your My Menu. Then the next one is turquoise. Now, I will never forget that because I love turquoise color. And My Menu will have as many pages as you save the items to it. So you can have up to 5, okay, and you can fill a page for each one of them. So those are some My Menu or main menu tabs, how to move through your menu quickly and easily. So many clients, whether they be online education or out in the field with me on workshops, they spend so much time fiddle farting around in their menus, they're missing shots. You want that menu to become a part of that subconscious intentionality that I talk about when I'm talking about mastering your system. So the more you either get to recognize colors, tab icons, main menu tab icons, learning what page. So under the custom menu, okay, page 4 is a very important one because that's highlight and shadow alerts. Here's a little tip. You're going to learn this if you buy my future mastering manual exposure class that I'm going to have. I'm not using live histogram hardly anymore. Okay. Shh. I don't like to talk about it. I'm using highlights so much, highlight alerts so much. I really don't even look at my live histogram. There are times to use it for post. Tip, night sky, flash photography. You need that histogram. Okay. So here's what I need you to understand. The frustration you experience in the field is the equivalent of how little you mastered your system. Rob just posted that the mentorship part 1 goes very in depth to each menu item. Listen, Rob's in there, and Rob's a good photographer. Like, Rob knows what he's doing. And I think Rob would tell you that the mentorship program's already been tremendously helpful for him. And Rob is a good photographer. But I want to say this. Whether you're a beginner, an intermediate, or even an advanced photographer, the level of frustration you experience in the field is in direct correlation to how little you've mastered your camera body and then your lenses. Lenses don't often have that many features, but your camera bodies do, okay? So if you find yourself regularly frustrated out in the field, it's because you have not mastered your system. Because once you master your system, there is still the aggravating element of creative photography, right? Because just because you've mastered your system and just because you've nailed your exposure and nailed autofocus does not mean your image doesn't suck. Okay? So there is this evolutionary process in your nature photography that you need to develop that is going to start with. Now, what happens is many people try to jump to mastering the creative side of photography. And that's important. That's great. But if you skip your system and the technical side, you're still going to experience a tremendous amount of frustration. And you're also going to spend a lot of time in post fixing images. And if you know me, you know I do not waste my time teaching how to fix crappy images. Shitty images are still just less shitty if you post-process them pretty well. Okay, so this is what I need you to understand. Mastering your system, that menu, and I'll be honest, the menu system in the OM1, the OM1 Mark II, the OM3, even the EM1X, it is complex, but this is an important distinction. They are complex, but not complicated, and they're complex because our cameras do a lot. I work on all camera systems, and there are some pretty crappy menus out there. Some of them are getting better. Thank God. You know, that's the challenge with engineers building and designing camera bodies. They don't always think the clear sense of how menus should be organized, but they're getting much better. So if you find yourself wildlife, landscape, night sky, macro, high-speed flash, hummingbird, high-speed flash, macro, camera trapping, I don't care what genre of nature photography it is. If you find yourself regularly frustrated, okay, and you're an OM system shooter, Nikon shooter, Canon shooter, the more you master that system, the better your photography will get. Because you're no longer spending time fiddle farting around with the least important. And the most important is going to be knowing how to do your fieldcraft. Okay. I did a presentation at Precision Camera and Video for their Spring Expo. I think it was last weekend. And my presentation was top 6 mistakes that nature photographers make. Okay. And in there, I talked about improving your fieldcraft is better than buying a better lens, which is better than buying the newest camera. Okay. So my formula in that is fieldcraft is better than a new lens, which is better than a new body. Okay. That is the order. So that's the frustration comes in. We don't even have we don't have our camera system mastered. And then we don't know much about fieldcraft. And then we know even less about post-processing. That is just a funnel of frustrating the crap out of you. So why did I develop my mentorship program? Because part one is about mastering your system. Yes, it is only OM system specific. I guess I could learn all the other systems and offer that. I would lose my ambassadorship, and I am too proud of this role. Sorry, it's on this side. This is something I worked my butt off for. This is one of my proudest accomplishments in life. So I'm wearing it this morning. I could be wearing my Western shirt, but I was like, OM System Ambassador, baby. I'm proud of that one. I do a lot here. Great question, Elizabeth. Yes, I will. Okay. So if I forget that question, I'll come back to it. So if I don't care what system you shoot, but mastering it is key. I honestly don't know if anybody offers mentorship programs on the other systems. Not sure. I know that for a long time I was the only one offering OM system only workshops. Now I saw Matt Seuss, who's another OM system ambassador, is offering some OM system workshops. And stay tuned. He and I are going to team up for a workshop in Big Bend next summer, chasing the storms, black and white photography. So I'm looking at partnering with some other photographers on doing workshops. Elise Bender, who's a Tamron ambassador, partnering with her to do Costa Rica. I'm going to do one of my bird and flight workshops in Monterey, California. So I am going to start developing more skill-specific workshops. Because what happens is, say you go with me to Galapagos, or you go with me to Africa. There's so many amazing subjects. There's so much going on, and you will learn stuff. I've got several people in here who've been with me on workshops, been with me at festivals. You learn when you're with me. But I think that a lot of people need to learn more skill specific. So I am going to create workshops that are skill specific more than just taking you out somewhere. I will do those. Those are fun and I love them. But like, I'm going to do a OM System live composite star trail workshop here. That's what you'll learn, how to do star trails. We will do it several nights in a row in one of the darkest skies in the lower 48. So watch for me to do more skill specific. I would love feedback from y'all on skill specific and destination specific workshops that you'd like to see. Okay. I would love feedback from y'all on that. So I've been rambling for 22 minutes, which that's not even close to my record. I've probably gone for hours and hours. But Brian, let me show y'all Brian's question here. Hey Lee, what do I think of the OM Zuko 150 to 600? Great question, Brian. Great question. So if any of y'all watch my YouTube video about the different lenses, you know that is my second preferred long lens for wildlife and birds. Okay. So there's the 150 to 400, which is the king, hands down, and should be for $7,500, right? Okay. It should be the king of the lineup. Then there's the 300, which probably has a hair bit better. Probably nobody would hardly even notice. Hair bit better image quality than the 150-600. Maybe. I haven't even done testing, but I am speculating based on what I know. But I seriously doubt if I took pictures that any of y'all would guess which one is which. But why I would give the edge to the 150 to 600 over the 300 is because when it comes to wildlife and bird, I love a zoom. I shot with a Canon 600, the big version 2, for a long time, lugging that thing around with that giant Gitzo tripod. Oh, it's back in the corner holding a video camera up back there. Lugging that crap around for a long time. And I can tell you this, I want to zoom. Man, I'm too often, if I'm on a skiff, if I'm on a Panga or Zodiac, if I'm on a yacht, if I'm in a safari vehicle, if I'm in my private vehicle, if I'm hiking, I want to zoom. Sometimes you're on a trail. You can't go any direction to change your position, and you're just so locked in with a fixed focal length. And I hate saying that because the 300 is a freaking spectacular lens, right? But I love the 150 to 600. The autofocus is excellent. But here's the caveat. a lot of beginning and intermediate photographers shooting shitty light. When you are zoomed out at 1200 35 millimeter equivalent, 1200 focal length, right? That's a 600 lens, so 2 times crop factor. Okay. That is a long reach. And atmospheric haze, heat, shimmers, waves, whatever you want to say, all of those elements are going to but it gets very long and it gets front heavy. You have to have, in my I do not hesitate whatsoever to recommend the 150 to 600. If you are older or weaker, you may well need a monopod or a tripod with that. Okay. Highly recommend it if you're older or weaker. And then you won't have any problems. I can see people buying that lens and then bitching about it. And 100% it's going to be them to blame, shooting in crappy light or shooting way far out that a bird's even further out, cropping the crap out of it, and then complaining that it's not good quality. It's great quality, but your fieldcraft sucks and your expectations are unrealistic. Okay. So if you that lens is not for shooting birds a mile away. That lens is for bringing close birds even closer. Oh, Rob said I dropped off. I am on Starlink in the middle of nowhere in West Texas, so I'll have little gaps when it changes from one satellite to another. So when you guys just fill me in, and if you miss anything important, you let me know. Okay. So let me show now Elizabeth's question. Okay, newbie here. Can you briefly explain what fieldcraft is? Guys, anytime I make an assumption about a term, a concept, or anything, please ask a question. Too often people won't, and they'll say, well, I don't want to bother that, or that's a silly question. No, it's not. Other people are thinking it. All right. So here's my own definition that I came up with for fieldcraft, Elizabeth. Fieldcraft is the art and skill of approaching a specific subject or subjects or a scene. Okay? Fieldcraft is the art and skill of approaching a subject or subjects or scene. So in other words, if I am walking towards, just in Florida, if I am walking towards a flock of terns and gulls, a mixed flock, and they'll often spread out and they're going to face into the wind. That's fieldcraft, is knowing that perched birds, seated, standing birds, perched birds, taking off birds, they're going to do that into the wind. Okay, so that's an example of fieldcraft. But if I start walking towards a flock of terns or gulls, now this is going to look ridiculous. I don't have my Western clothes on today, okay? But let's say I'm the lead tern or gull, and you're walking towards me. If you see that their legs are going to shift like this, okay? If you see that lead tern or gull and its legs start to patter and it turns, that means stop. You're getting too close, okay? So fieldcraft is recognizing that. Then fieldcraft is knowing if I want to get closer, I have to lay on my belly and crawl through the sand or the whatever it is that you're on. I've crawled within 6 feet of common terns, no problem, because you are no longer a threat that way. But I've seen people, I have crawled up to a flock, and I've seen other photographers come up and they just walk up next to me thinking it won't bother them, and then they flush the birds. I'm kind of like, well, did you not see how my big ass drug through the sand for however far, right? So I think that fieldcraft is the least talked about and most important aspect of wildlife photography. Rob posted he would love to see a fieldcraft specific workshop. Let me think about a great spot on where to do that. I know Mentorship Part 2 will be all on fieldcraft. The thing for me is I've got to have a helper to video me, because I've been thinking about this, and videoing myself and doing fieldcraft is pretty much impossible except for maybe night sky and landscape. So good news, I will be introducing to you on a live soon Kelly Hindeman from Austin, Texas. She used to work with Precision Camera, and now her and I are going to team up on Leroy Photography, in addition to my workshops that I will be offering myself. Not ones that I'm partnering necessarily with Matt Seuss or others, but workshops offered exclusively through Leroy Photography. Currently, we will be doing a highlight video of each workshop. So Kelly will be joining me to do that. She will be doing the video. I've loaned her some OM system gear. She has done a lot of portraits, senior, very creative photographer, and interested in coming into nature photography. So she's going to be learning OM. She's going to be learning nature photography, and she is going to be a part of Leroy Photography, helping me out many ways. And at the end of every workshop now, you will eventually, not too long after the workshop, receive a highlight video of your workshop experience. It won't be comprehensive. It's not going to be teaching you everything we talked about, but a highlight one. We will also, from now on, be offering pre-workshop Zooms to prepare you for the trip, and every workshop will have a post-workshop Zoom meeting for image critique. So those 3 editions will be on all my Cheamo Easiana. There's my lady in Brazil coming to you from Curitiba, which I will be at June 23rd, and looking out down there and getting to see her in person. So I want to throw up a couple of other comments here from you're welcome, Brian. Yeah, you're welcome, bud. Here is yeah. So here's, love the 300. I'll tell you what, the 50 to 200 is not going, which I don't even know if that's the exact focal length. I mean, nobody knows that right now. I can assure you of that. That's just not long enough for birds. Okay. Big mammals. Yes. If you buy that lens for bird photography, you're going to be frustrated as hell. 400 millimeters is to me, now that I shoot with the 150 to 400, it's just not long enough for birds, man, unless you're shooting exclusively in your backyard. But that lens is going to be awesome. Yes, it'll be cheaper than 150, 400, but it's not. 50 to 200 is going to be great for large wildlife, environmental wildlife. I mean, I'm sure it's going to be an outstanding lens, whatever that focal length is. And I truly do not know. So I can't tell. Even if I knew, I couldn't tell you. And I don't know. So I can't tell you, but I hear people being I don't know. We don't know what that lens is going to be. Yes, we know what it roughly shows you on there, but okay. But that is not long. If you do birds, that is not long enough. You will be very frustrated. It's going to be a great lens, but that is not going to be long. I mean, yeah, yes, it's 400. If I were shooting it with a limit at 500 millimeters, I would be so frustrated. I would be. I'd be very frustrated. Because for many, many birds, smaller birds in particular, okay? So, that it's going to be a great lens, I'm sure. I'm confident of that. So, yes, so I like this comment. A lot of people bitch about Micro Four Thirds who've never even touched it. I bust the chops at Precision Camera. I bust the chops of the Fuji reps. Almost everybody there at a camera store event, they're reps. They don't do workshops like me. I'm generally the only one at a table that does what I do. So I work with all the systems. Most of those guys are reps. They don't work with anybody else with other systems. And they go to camera store represent. And they're great guys. I love them. Many of them are friends, even the other, but I'll still bust their chops about saying what a Micro Four Thirds camera can and can't do when they haven't used it, or saying the look of theirs. I'm like, guaranteed, give me your camera. I'll take a picture. I'll take a picture of OM system. You won't tell me which one is which. I guarantee it, So you're right. That happens way too often. Hey, Bruce, good to see you too. Thanks for being here today. Yeah, but the 150 to 600 guys, if you're looking for a great wildlife lens and you know how to use it, yeah. So, and yeah, the 600 focal length will spoil you. I thought we had another question. Oh, fieldcraft. Let me go back to, let's talk a little bit more about fieldcraft. Okay. And then I want to get to one of my topics, birds in flight. I would say, if let's just say you're with me and we randomly go to a popular bird photography location. I was just in Florida for the Florida Birding and Photo Festival, which is going to become exclusively Florida Photo Fest. Let's just say we go to a popular Florida, maybe we're at DeSoto, Fort DeSoto. I'm going to tell you that 90%, and I'm being generous, I don't think I think that's too low. If we watch the photographers in action, 90% of them have almost no fieldcraft. They don't know how to approach birds. And approaching different genuses or species can be very different. Learning which species are tolerant versus an individual of a specific genus that happens to be much more tolerant than normal, knowing that distinction helps you. Okay? So I know that there are certain bird species that are very difficult to photograph. Some of you know Arthur Morris. He was in Florida. I learned a lot from Arthur. He's not generally a good guy once you talk to people, but he taught me a lot about exposure before we had live highlight alerts and live histograms. If you looked at most of what Arthur photographed, they were birds that were always out in the open. I'm not dissing Arthur. I'm just saying you don't see images of LeConte sparrows, or you don't see images of black rails, difficult birds to see and photograph from Arthur Morris. Okay. So if I'm walking through a field near Austin, Texas in winter, and I'm trying to photograph LeConte sparrows, most time when you see them, they run by your feet like mice. You're not getting a great shot. But if you manage to pish up, which is or whatever way you pish. Pishing is a way of mimicking a wren's alarm call to try to get birds to look at you, pop up on a perch, whatever. There are places you can do it, places you can't. Do it responsibly and ethically. Okay. So if a LeConte sparrow jumped up on a nice perch and you take 5 pictures and start chimping, somebody should cane you. You should get, you know how you get hit across the back of the legs with a switch, that's what they should, you should be shooting the crap out of that to do it, because you are not probably going to see that again for a while. Okay. That's great fieldcraft, knowing that. Great fieldcraft is knowing that if a tapir is lounging and bathing and staying in the water instead of getting up and running off when you're in the Amazon, whether it be in Brazil, Peru, you better shoot the crap out of that. Shoot wide, shoot tight. Fieldcraft is knowing that if you're shooting a landscape and there's a gap in the cloud, so you have a beam of light, God rays coming down, and you're watching the angle and the direction that light is moving and knowing, if in 20 seconds, that light is going to be on that peak or on that object, right? Or that forest, whatever the element is in the landscape that you want to highlight, any minute, that's being patient and saying, watch the lights coming. That is fieldcraft, okay? That is fieldcraft. I remember I was doing a workshop out in Big Bend, and I had, 8, 10 clients with me, and we were at a place called Mule Ears, which is a collapsed caldera resulting in this cool mountain formation that looks like mule ears. Each side is still standing in the center collapse. It's a beautiful formation. And storms were developing, and I knew that if we waited, I thought a rainbow was going to appear. Now, I'm going to let y'all in a secret. On a workshop, and I'm not complaining, I'm just telling you facts. I mean, you guys know me. I don't bullshit, right? I often miss a lot of great shots because clients won't be patient enough. And I know I do, and I suck it up. And sometimes I talk them into staying, and I try to explain why. And sometimes I'm just like, yep, we'll go on. Okay. And we've been at this spot for an hour and something at least, okay? And I said, guys, we really should stay. Well, let's go on. One of my most aggravating phrases is, I think I've got that. That's the passive aggressive way of trying to get you to move on. So one person will say that, hoping the rest of the group gets their hint that they're tired of photographing that. I hate that statement. I hate that statement. And yes, some people say it around me, and it's okay, but I fucking hate that statement. So I finally was like, okay, guys, we'll go on. And just as everybody has their camera off back in their car and is folding up tripods, guess what develops? A monster full-length rainbow that I was shooting at, I believe it was 24 millimeters. I had to do a pano to get it all. Okay. I had to do a pano to capture. I think I needed 3 shots at 24 to capture this rainbow. And they're all like, I said, guys, as soon as I look up, we should have listened to you. No shit. That's why you paid me. Right. So fieldcraft is knowing that if I went to bed one night planning to do macro out here, I love macro after the monsoons. It's good right now too, but after the monsoons, fieldcraft is knowing that if I wake up and I have 15 to 20 mile an hour gusts, I'm not going to want to shoot macro out there. The vegetation is going to be moving. Insects will be hunkered down. Yeah, I could shoot grasshoppers on the ground or whatever, but the reality is, no, I'm not going to go do that. Okay. Fieldcraft is knowing that if I'm planning to do, which I want to do soon, go up on Guadalupe Peak out here, the highest point in Texas, and photograph a star trail where the point of the obelisk marking the highest point, I want that point to be right on the North Star. I need to check. Fieldcraft is watching for the weather forecast, along with what amount of moonlight do I want on my foreground. And then do I have that day where I can actually go hike that and do it, because it's one of the most strenuous hikes I think it is the most strenuous hike for the highest point in Texas. Okay. So that's fieldcraft. Fieldcraft begins before you leave home. Fieldcraft is experiential. It can be gained through reading, but that's books on bird and mammal and insect and reptile behavior. That's not normally found in field guides anymore. Okay. So fieldcraft, Elizabeth says, I like this comment. Elizabeth said this. So fieldcraft is learning to sneak. That is a part of it. In fact, a part of sneaking on a landscape is watching your shadow, making sure your shadow isn't creeping into your image. So it might be changing the legs on your tripod so the shadow isn't coming in. It might be having to work a slightly different angle so the shadow of your tripod and you aren't coming into the scene. Fieldcraft might be thinking to yourself, I'm going to do a night sky shot, but I'm set up along a main road in a national park. Someone's headlights are probably going to ruin the shot. So if I'm doing time lapse or a stacking sequence, there's a good chance someone's headlights are going to mess that up. Okay. And your foreground. Fieldcraft is knowing that if I'm going to work with a snake and I want to keep it calm for a little bit, I need to put something on its back, whether it be a bucket for a venomous snake or a hat you're wearing, on a regular, so whatever it is, just to give it a place to feel safe, or putting your hand over a poison dart frog, just so that it feels like, okay, I'm covered, I'm safe. And then already having your settings set so that as you move your hand away, but you can start shooting immediately. I often have, when I'm out in the field with clients, I'll have my hand over it. Are you ready? Yep. And then, oh, no. And then here we go fiddle farting around because something wasn't right in the menu or they don't have their gear. I have my camera mastered. So my hand comes up, I can start shooting right away. Okay. So there is the sneak, but there's so much more to it. And here's the fun thing about nature photography. I don't know it all on fieldcraft. There's lots of species around the world I haven't encountered, so the sneak is going to be different for different species, different genuses, different insects. It's all different, There are some butterflies that just seem impossible to try to get close to. And so if you recognize you got a cooperative butterfly, then work it if it's of a species or a genus that isn't normally cooperative. Okay. So Brian made this comment, which I've noticed that some YouTube photography channels, when they do reviews on big zoom lens, the subjects are all big. Yeah. I will say for video, sometimes a bigger subject. One of the things I don't know if this is true for all cameras, but if I'm trying to record the viewfinder for you. I can't put my Atomos Ninja on and see what's going on through the viewfinder. So you're trying to photograph looking at a screen on the back, which is harder for wildlife. So in fairness, that might be some of the reason. See, I'm not always going to be, I don't always have to be a turd. I'm trying to give some of them the benefit of the doubt. But so that is one of the challenges of doing video. If you're trying to record through your camera, I don't know if it's true for other systems, but on the OM system, if I plug in my Atomos, I can't see the image of the viewfinder. It's only on the Atomos. So that is a little more challenging. Yes. So yes, pishing is a way of mimicking the alarm of a wren. So, and guys, you got to learn. So let's talk about pishing for a minute, and then I'm going to do birds in flight. Pishing is only effective with some species, not all. Sometimes you only need to do it for a second. Sometimes I have guides in foreign countries. They are playing a call, which is fine in certain areas and done ethically and right. Some people don't like it all. Ethics is not always black and white. There are some things that are, some things that aren't. There are some photographers that act like it's always black and white. With all due respect to them, that isn't the case, but we are going to have differences of opinion on that. So I get guides that'll play a tape and the bird will get right where we want it, and they keep playing the tape. And I'll say, stop. It's where we want it. You don't need to try to get it to do something else. So if you're pishing and the bird looks at you or does what you want, stop. You don't keep doing it. Okay. And every now and then, depending on what you're working with, certain snakes, if you want their head at a certain angle, you just move your hand to there, wiggle your fingers, and they'll see the movement, right? So then, though, if you want the shot of that, then you got to, it's going to be better to wiggle another hand or have somebody else do it, and so that you can then shoot once they do it. So I need you to understand, like, pishing is just to get a head to turn to a right angle or look back at you, or, you got a deer foraging and you want, and again, you don't need to do this for hours and hours and hours. Remember, let animals live a normal life as much as possible. I also don't like photographers that act like humans aren't a part of the natural world, that somehow our presence is disturbing. Well, you can think that way only because of the last few hundred years, because prior to that, most people lived in nature. By God, we lived in caves getting chased by predators. So with all due respect, some people have no understanding of historical life. They only think in our modern world. God bless vegans. You can be a vegan because of our modern grocery store distribution network. As soon as that collapses, you're screwed. You're going to be eating bacon right next to me, right? So God bless vegans. They leave more meat for me. Yeah, Matt lives out here by me, and he says he likes being in a party of one. Yeah, Matt, I love people, and I love going to cities for a while, and then put me back on my mountain, brother. That I agree with you. Yeah, I agree with you. So pishing is to be used properly. Playing tapes, do not play them. We're not allowed. There's a reason. Whether you agree with it or not, don't play it. It's like the idiots that fly drones in national parks. I'm personally glad they're banned. I've had to hear one in Guadalupe Mountain National Park, busted the guy's chops as soon as I walked far enough away, he fired it up again. I'd have loved to have shot that damn thing right out of the sky. And I owned one at the time. So pishing, use it judiciously. Certain birds are going to be responsive at certain times of year, and other times of year they're not going to give a crap, right? So knowing when and what species it's going to work with will help you become more effective photographer, okay? So let's talk birds in flight, okay? Somewhat self-serving because I do birds in flight workshops for a reason. If you can master or advance bird and flight photography, perch birds become that much easier, okay? Making exposure adjustments on the fly with birds in flight, if you can do that, then perch birds are easier. If you can adjust your exposure for a bird flying, then a cheetah running is going to be just as challenging, okay? So I have a 7-part system for birds in flight. And I kept trying to, sometimes linear systems or chronological systems, if you will, are good. You know, you do step 1, you do step 2, you do step 3, you do step 4. The problem is when you're out in the field, if you forget step 5 and 6, you're screwed because, okay, I got to 4, but I don't remember what I need to do for 5 or 6. So I wanted, how could I create a system that was not linear, not chronological, and where you could work on whatever element you wanted to at that time? Okay. So I came up with this 7-part system for mastering bird and flight photography. And I don't know if you know where the idea came to me. I was with Lee Bender, a Tamarron ambassador, and some other photographers. And one of them primarily shot landscape photography. Great guy, but I tried to offer some help early on for wildlife, and he said, I got this. I was like, okay, no problem, man, you know. And we're in the Faroe Islands, and we were photographing puffins, which, oh my gosh, puffins in flight, they're such terrible flyers. It'd be like if I could fly, I could see myself being a puffin in flight, right? And we're on this cliff, and it's a big drop off, and there's ocean, and it's an overcast, kind of foggy. So it was kind of cool light, but they stopped up on this one ridge that then dropped, came around, and then the cliff curved like this. So they were up higher. It came down. It then curved. And at this notch, okay, so there's a notch, if you will, or a U-shaped indention in the cliff. The cliff on the far side was not jagged rock. It came down a ways with green, yellow flowers, burrows, and other puffins, okay? So they stayed up there where their background was always the ocean, which was a decent color and had some good shots. But I saw this. I walked further down. The problem was the trail was right up against the edge of the cliff. And we're talking where I could safely put my left foot, and my right foot on the edge of the cliff was probably 18 to 24 inches. And the wind was that strong gust at times, then let up. So as you're leaning a little bit into the wind to hold firm, when it lets up, so your feet are not level, but this is the place to stand to put birds coming in or taking off against a green background with other puffins, flowers. And the wind was such that the puffins coming in were facing me and completely out of control, right? Completely out of control. It was like playing catch with a 5-year-old, for most 5-year-olds, right? So I set up, and I recognized that there was this one area that I would get the green or the yellow flowers or other birds and burrows in the background. And if you went a little further right, there were crashing waves against a big boulder in the ocean. And I realized that there was kind of this plane where that was at. So I was at 50 frames per second, SH2, which my ISO could be below ISO 12,800. That's your maximum limit. Right. My shutter speed limit on the OM1 with SH2 is 1/640th of a second, 1/320th with the Mark II. But if you think about it, if you're shooting 50 frames per second, that's because you want to stop action. So your shutter speed needs to be higher than that. If you're getting down to a lower shutter speed than what you can get to on SH2, it doesn't really make sense. Okay. And I realized, so what I would do, okay, I would look off to the right where the birds were coming in, and I only picked up the birds that were, I began to figure out what angle those birds could come in, and then they would follow that plane. I began to ignore all the other birds because it was just mayhem with birds. If you don't learn to focus, you will get overwhelmed and you can't focus on a subject. So sometimes you have to put on your blinders. You know, the Preakness was just ran, and my ex-uncle and my aunt were racehorse trainers, and he was a jockey. And, you know, they put those blinders on the racehorses so they can focus. You got to put your blinders on. So I would come out here, grab a subject, and shoot all the way through. And all I did was immediately look back. No chimping, no admiring, no, I would just live highlight alerts. And if the light changed any, which it didn't really, but I would just take a perched puffin, slow my shutter speed down. Now it will be ISO, because we've learned that if we move ISO to a dial, we get live highlight alert feedback instantaneously with ISO. And all I'm doing is just thousands of shots. And I have some of my favorite bird and flight shots from there. Now, they shot up there. I didn't say you should come down here with me because, hey, he had it. And he's a super nice guy. I'm just picking on him. Later, we were editing our images, and he walked by and he saw that. And he goes, "Where was that?" And I said, "Well, you know why, when y'all were standing up there, this is why I was down there." And they saw several more. And he goes, "Huh, I should have come down and stand by you more." And I was kind of like, probably. I mean, the fieldcraft of a wildlife photographer shooting wildlife is probably going to be a little more advanced than the fieldcraft of a landscape photographer shooting wildlife. So that's fieldcraft, and that's birds in flight, right? So this system, the way I came up with this system is that day I realized my mind works so fast. I have 9 channels playing. One isn't even safe to share with anybody. It's the level of sarcasm is beyond absurd. And I'm always thinking about 47 things, okay? So I started asking myself, what is all the crap going on in my mind that I don't even think about? It just happens, okay? So I began to write it down over time. And I came up with these 7 systems that fit in. So 7 elements that fit within this system to master bird and flight. And I realized that all these things that I just assume and that I just do by nature because of how I think, of how I was raised, of how I've operated throughout my life, that, I'm so alert. I got gang robbed and beaten by somewhere between 15 and 20 people when I was 18. And you have not met anybody more aware of their surroundings than me now, okay? So what is it that I'm looking at, thinking about, and doing that I've developed over time? And I created this system, and now I do workshops to teach you that system. So the opening night is a presentation over the whole system. And then we go out in the field, and I am such a mean ass on this workshop. I don't let you go wandering off looking for different species. Screw that. Stop being distracted and freaking learn something. So I'm meaner. I'm meaner on the bird and flight or skill specific ones, particularly for birds, because you get a birder and they're just, oh, look, something sparkly. No, you're going to learn this, and you pay money to learn it. So I make you stay in an area and work goals or something like that, because birds that are black, white, and gray are perfect for mastering exposure. Some of you want to jump out there and try to photograph woodpeckers in flight or warblers. If you can't photograph and nail the exposure and the autofocus on a gull or a heron, then you are screwed when it comes to a woodpecker. Okay. So I'm super mean. I mean, oh my God, I'm so mean. So I'm going to teach you these different elements on different parts of the day so that you can put it together. I think one of the biggest compliments I've had on any workshop, I had a couple, they live in Austin and they've been with me now a couple of times. They were supposed to go to Antarctica, but there was a problem and their trip couldn't go. And they were looking for a backup, and they went on my Mastering Birds in Flight on the Texas coast. Now, let's think about it. Antarctica, Central Texas coast. I mean, I love Central Texas coast, but Antarctica. And they later said, we are so grateful that happened, because their photography afterwards has been so much better that when they do go to Antarctica, they'll be more confident in what they shoot. So don't want to pat myself on the back too much here, but I can tell you, you probably won't, or you probably have not learned as much in any given workshop as you will on my Mastering Birds in Flight. And I'm doing one in Central Texas. I'm going to do one in Monterey Bay. I'm going to look at all parts of I'm going to look at all parts of the world for doing this. Okay. So that's Birds in Flight. There is so much to it, but I have broken it down in digestible parts for you. Okay. So, let's see. Oh, Todd has a good question. Do I use the rear screen or viewfinder more when framing images? Wildlife, I only use the viewfinder unless I have to, like in a boat, and I'm going to put my camera down right into the water a little bit to shoot, like I was talking about. Todd was with me in Austin at that presentation, I think, where I put my camera actually a little bit in the water in Brazil to shoot a jaguar at eye level. Then I use the rear screen. I only use the LCD monitor for framing an image for wildlife if it's because I'm holding it at a weird angle where I can't put my head. The viewfinder is so much better. The light isn't glaring. There's not reflections. You're just firmer, but there are times. So 98% of the time I'm in the viewfinder for wildlife. Landscape, night sky because of night vision with our OM system cameras. I like using the LCD screen a lot. Now, if it's bright out, I'm doing black and white midday. So here are the advantages and disadvantages of the LCD monitor for like landscape, night sky. If you can put your blinders on and not be distracted by other people, and you remember that to cycle through the views in your OM system camera is pressing the info button. I like to pull up. I can kind of see through everything, but it's good to cycle through the info and get to just the image only, and train your eye to check the edges of landscape and night sky. Okay. So the good thing about using the viewfinder to frame is it just causes you to focus a little more. I like the LCD monitor, because I'm often shooting at an awkward angle with landscape. I've got my tripod down. I've got on the edge of a cliff, whatever it might be. There are times where for landscape, I like looking at the rear screen, but angle it so that glare or reflection is not going to hinder you looking at the four corners. So it might even be good to go back and forth. Okay. But remember, there's a setting in the menu. God almighty, how nerdy am I that I remember this? There's a setting in the menu for auto switch that if you have your monitor flipped out, that disables auto switch. So if you're going to do that, you need to change that setting or quickly close the LCD monitor, look through. That is the level of nerdism at which you find this ambassador, that I remember that setting, that if you're going to flip your monitor out. Now, if you're just looking at it closed on the back of your camera, no problem. But the instant you swing it out, there's a setting that will disable auto switch. Okay. So I macro, if I got to get at a weird angle. Yes. I know some, Chris McGinnis, who's a phenomenal OM system ambassador and is taking over a Panama workshop for macro. He uses the flip out screen a lot. I still like for macro, the viewfinder, and probably a part of it is, this won't surprise any of y'all, I'm, ADD, I don't know. Hell, I'm wired up. That's all I know. I'm OCD and I'm a control freak. So the more control I have, and that's going to vary on that situation. But wildlife, most of the time, no. You just can't track stuff. But if you're holding something at a weird angle, my God, I've been talking a lot for a long time. The reason I like having the level on, okay, the green level in my camera, even in my custom modes for wildlife, is the instant you move that camera away from you, over the edge of a boat, out of a vehicle, through a window, whatever it is, your perception of a level horizon gets awkward. So if you do that, you definitely need to have that, the green level on. Okay. Let's see here. So here's a question. Hi, Lee. When using silent sequential on the OM1 Mark II, the image of the viewfinder is moving, which are not well centered. Yeah, that shouldn't be. So what I'm wondering is, did you accidentally turn off image stabilization? Because I have image stabilization sync, or not. I'm not sync. I have simulation image. There's too many image stabilization simulation turned on. So as soon as I half press the shutter, or as soon as I half press the shutter button, like if you have the 150 to 400 or you have any long lens and you half press the shutter button to turn on image stabilization simulation, that image goes, ooh. I mean, it's like Star Wars kind of stuff. So, and if it's not well centered, I don't want most of my subjects centered, so that I could talk about. But I don't have any, unless another reason I turn image stabilization simulation on is because if I accidentally hit the image stabilizer switch on the side of the camera, it lets me know, because when I half press shutter button, it's still moving around due to my movement. That is not a camera or lens issue unless you've turned something on. So no, I want SH2. But then here we go. You asked another question about it. Oops, no, I didn't click the right one. Show on stream. Hold on. I'm not clicking the right thing, I don't think. Is it this one? Oh, you don't want to use SH2 all the time. Man, get over. Nah, just get over that, because what happens is, so I've had so many clients. I actually had a guy in India using single drive mode for wildlife and wanted to tell me that he got the images he wanted. My bullshit meter exploded. Poof, just bullshit everywhere. I mean, I'm going to say this because his wife was one of my most difficult clients ever. And if they're watching it, I'm sorry, hi, Patience. Shit. My own mouth, right? God, she was a pain. That is one of the most ridiculous statements I've ever heard out in the field, that you're in single drive mode and you're getting the shot you want for wildlife. So I won't lie. He eventually was an SH2 when he saw what I was capturing. I could go into much more depth on why for wildlife photography you just want to be in SH2 all the time. You are missing some of the most important shots. Think about it like this. People that tell me they don't want to be at 50 frames per second and they're shooting 20 in silent sequential high, right? So just silent sequential. The heart with the 3 boxes. When I'm in 50, I'm getting 2.5 times the images. There are split-second occurrences that I'm capturing that you're not even close to. You want to talk about when I've pissed myself off? Okay, here's when I do dumb shit. Believe me, I do dumb shit too, like other people. This is not a dumb shit free zone. I equally do dumb shit. So sometimes I have to be at ISO 1600 or higher, so I can't stay in SH2. I have to go to silent sequential. But then the light changes and I drop my ISO. But when I'm teaching a workshop, I have so many things going on. Sometimes I don't think about going back to SH2 and I shoot something and I'll go, nailed it, baby, nailed it. And then I'm looking through my images. I'm like, what? There's not many. Oh, God, I'm in silent sequential. I'm not in SH2. And I get pissed because I know how many shots I missed. So, Ron, listen, just trust me, brother, because you can't often predict the best shots. I mean, shots of my wolf shots I got in Yellowstone when the male grimaced for a split second, and I got it at 50 frames per second, and they didn't at 20. Split, I mean, so fast. And you can't, it's like, Todd, is Todd Council still on here? Can I pick on you, Todd, for a second? So Todd does almost exclusively birds. He does other things, okay? So Todd was telling me that, and when you only shoot birds, you've got all these custom modes available. You've got 4 custom modes, right? And so you're trying to come up with what are some different things I can program it for. Well, he told me he had, yeah. Thank you, Todd. Todd's an awesome human being, by the way. He's a great guy. But and that's why he says, yeah, I can pick on him. And even if he said no, Todd knows me well enough to know I'd still pick on him. So Todd has custom mode 1, and then he told me he had custom mode 2 for I think pro capture, if I remember correctly. And Todd, if that's not correct. So let me tell you my philosophy of custom modes. You should never program a custom mode for one change that can be accomplished through the press of a button, through a dial, or a combination of a press of a button and a dial. You are not fast enough to go from custom mode 1 to custom mode 2 to catch action. And here's the thing. When you change a custom mode, it's not going to keep your exposure settings that you already determined in the prior custom mode. So now you have to fiddle fart around with probably all 3 settings just because you now have a custom mode for action, which you just missed. Never, listen to me, this is gospel. Thus saith the old system ambassador Lee, okay? You should never use a custom mode to accomplish, can be accomplished with one press of a button, one spin of a dial, or a combination thereof. So pressing a button, spinning a dial. For example, to get to Pro Capture 2 quickly, all you got to do is reach up, press this button, spin a dial. Or press the button for OK button to go into your live or super control panel, boom. If you can change something super fast, that should not require a full change of a custom mode. You're going to miss too many shots. And guys, my philosophy of nature photography is speed first, accuracy second. Okay. So that drives how I set my stuff up. So thank you, Todd, for letting me pick on you. Yeah, Photon Man says, I get these little blackouts. Yeah, I'm sorry. I mean, I'm on Starlink. I'm in the middle of freaking nowhere, you know? Yeah, I just come to an ambassador that lives in the middle of nowhere. Do I have a recommendation for a lens skin cover so it doesn't stick out like a gigantic sore white thumb? Actually, I like the white on it. The reason let me grab my lens, guys. The reason I put this cover on it is twofold. Not because I didn't like the white, but because I beat the crap out of my gear and my white wasn't looking good. In fact, I have so much debris, sand, and junk under my my lens foot, I can't even spin it anymore. I mean, it's just locked in place. I got to send it in to have that done. So this, some of y'all have heard of lens coat. It is pure crap now. Mine, I spent $100 on it, so I spent the same price as this. And that, dear lens coat, listen to me, that piece of crap began to fray immediately. The plastic covering these began to yellow and crack immediately. It began to hold moisture, causing mold. Oh no, I will never recommend a lens coat cover ever again. They used to be really good quality, pieces of crap, not worth it. And this is made by, I think it's Alpha Guard. Let me see if I can find that. I emailed them asking if I could be an affiliate because I can sell a ton of their crap, and they didn't even have the balls to respond to me. So I like your products, but you should let me help you sell stuff. They definitely aren't going to have me now, are they? God, what is the name of that? 150 to, sorry guys, I'm doing this on the fly, which is how I tend to live a lot of my life. Lens wrap. Let's do that. Lens wrap. It starts with an A. I know I've got it in some of my, lens coat pulled up. Golly, guys. I will pull that up. If anybody here remembers that, or if somebody is on my YouTube and you see it in a link on one of my, I think it's ALV. God, crap. Hold on. I hate when I can't give you an immediate answer. Shoot. I hate when I can't remember something. Okay. So for this big lens, there's tons of pieces, very high quality. It took me about an hour and a half or so to put this on. You get a few extras of the parts that wear a little bit, like the knob and all that. It goes on, it stays on. I've got a few nicks here and there, but again, I'm tough on my stuff. So I would like to add to all of my bodies and all my lenses. It's just going to cost me a lot of money. So I will buy one at some point for a lens or a body and put it on and film it for a YouTube video. I'll buy one that's simpler, but I love their oh, there you go. Thank you, David. Okay, guys. David, here, I'm going to throw this up. Alpha GVRD. If you watch, they have sales at times, and I highly recommend it. If you are not a patient person or you're not detail-oriented, perhaps have someone else who cares about you do it for you, because you want to go on, you want it to look nice. So let me tell y'all my other reason for putting it on. People don't immediately recognize the lens. They walk up to me. It starts conversations. And my goal is to get you into OM system gear or sell you other OM system gear. So that's another reason I put that on there. Yeah, so Dave says this. On the new OM 1 400 Mark II, when shutter is half press, it locks on, but when you take the finger off, the image jumps big time. Is this normal for this lens? David, I got bad news for you. That is not the lens. That is you. So what happens is when you take your finger off the shutter, you are turning off image stabilization, and you're drunk ass. No, I'm just teasing. I don't know you. You don't drink. I'm sure. I'm just being funny. That is how much we move. So that is what you're seeing is image stabilization turning off. That is how good that is. Do you realize that? So guys, when you let off and the image jumps, that is because image stabilization just took a deep breath and stopped working. It went, I'm tired of trying to hold this guy still. That is what you're seeing, is the effect of image stabilization turning off. Yes. So if it's jumping and it goes left, that's because you're tending to move to the right, probably. That is how good that's. I told you, it's like Star Wars. Man, it like I love it. Oh crap, I blacked out talking about blacking out. That is awesome. I love it. I love it. So image stabilization, like it like slows time down. So you're looking through your camera, you're looking through your lens, it's moving, and you half press the shutter button, and then it simulates him, and it goes. And it's like it slows down time a little bit, man. So that's why if I'm in a boat that's rocking, like off the Peruvian coast, we're in these wooden boats, and man, I mean, I've had clients throw up on these little wooden boats because you're near this, you're near an island shooting birds. I like to keep my finger down on the shutter button, even when I know I might not be shooting. It's not going to. And it helps hold it still. Okay. Of image stabilization. I'm glad you asked that, Dave. That's a great question, and it helped me think about something that that's because the reason the older one didn't have that. It didn't have image stabilization. That is why you upgraded, good sir. That is exactly why you upgraded. That's how still it holds it now. Oh man, too bad that wasn't recorded for a OM commercial, because that is exactly why you upgraded, because it does hold it that still. No, the old one didn't do it because it didn't have image stabilization like that. Bingo. That's awesome. Man, Dave, see, this is why I need you guys asking questions. You don't realize sometimes the importance of the topic. Like I'm going to do a video about buying camera gear wisely, because all too often photographers don't know the right questions to ask. They don't know what they should be asking. So you say something and the camera store salesman does exactly what you asked them. Exactly what you asked them. So I'm going to do a video to try to help you guys in the future with that. Okay. I think that'll be very helpful. So bird and flight, I would love you guys to join me. I have the Central Texas coast coming up. I picked a nice time of year, end of October 30th through November 2nd. I have flying into San Antonio. Yes, you can fly into Corpus. It's just a smaller airport. Honestly, by the time you wait in San Antonio, catch your flight, and get down to Corpus, it's almost probably the same amount of time as driving from there. It just depends on what you want to do. So I've got the Central Texas coast coming up this fall. I currently have, I'm frozen. Okay. So let me know if you guys, what you guys might have missed. So the Birds in Flight workshop, I'd love to have you join me on the Central Texas coast. In 2026, I'm going to do Monterey. That will be awesome, having that destination. I'm really excited about some of the places I'm going to be looking ahead. I may pick some spots in Brazil, so I'll also do some international. And I may start have Mastering Birds in Flight beginner, and then Mastering Birds in Flight intermediate or advanced for the Faroe Islands. Okay. Not all bird and flight is equal. Central Texas coast, yeah, you got peeps flying by, if you've got some shorebirds like sanderlings, that's definitely more challenging than gulls and terns and herons. But standing on a cliff with stiff breezes in moderately cool weather in the Faroes, that's even more advanced. So that's why I'm going to offer some different workshops like that. I'd love to do Iceland. I'd love to do some different areas around the world. So let's see. Serge asked this. I'm against auto ISO and but no. I hate everything auto ISO chooses to be. I love auto white balance. Auto white balance works most of the time. Blue hour on snow, it doesn't work that well, at least in the OM system. I don't know about Sony or Canon or Nikon, okay? Auto ISO sucks ass in every way possible. I mean, it just does not work. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. And I've done tests. I'm going to, so guys, I'm going to be recording, hopefully this summer, Mastering Manual Exposure with OM System. Okay. I'm going to record a class on that. It's different than the mentorship. Mentorship is teaching you how to use the controls and a little bit of exposure. I'm going to walk you through all of the aspects of exposure. Those are different. I'm just going to prove it to you that auto ISO does not work. If you want a good example, like pick a place where the light is consistent. Like if you're on a beach and it's or you're on a river, you know, you got sky, a green forest background, and then the river, and say the light is overcast, you know, moderately overcast. Well, a bird flying in the open on a moderately overcast day, the exposure for that bird will be the exact same regardless of the background. But put it in auto ISO and move your camera around and see how often it changes ISO. It will change constantly. But the exposure for the bird is the exact same. It doesn't work. It just doesn't work. I'm telling you. I will do that, include that in that class series. It just sucks. It changes all the time when the exposure wouldn't be changing. Of all the things I beg people to stop doing, the most serious one, the top two, stop using auto ISO and stop using shutter priority. Absolutely. Stop it. Make yourself do the work to learn a different way. I promise you, Serge. I promise you. Zoran asked this, why don't I, is lens IS the reason why you don't like the 40-150 Pro anymore? No. I still love the 40-150. I do. I love, listen, that's our top selling lens. And no, honestly, for that focal length, it's not as important for me. But why have I not been using it as much? The 12-100 gives me, for wildlife environmental shots, so Africa, India, street photography, I have a little bit more flexibility on the wide end, okay? If I'm doing landscapes in Big Bend, the 40-150 Pro is with me for sure, for long lens landscape, okay? But what I found is I like a little wider at times for wildlife environmental shots. And the 12-100 gets me that. The 40-150 takes up a little bit more space in my bag. I don't take the lens foot off of lenses. That's just a good way of losing crap. So I love that lens. It's like the 300 f4. I wish I used it more. I will be using it more because of my I'm going to do more stuff in Big Bend again. I love Big Bend. I've been missing it, and there's other reasons why, but I'm going back to Big Bend a little more. Do not think I don't like the 40-150 more. That is still one of my top recommended lenses to anybody for landscape, wildlife, but street photography. So if I'm in India where I'm going to be doing wildlife, you know, I had close wildlife or street photography, I want the 12-100 in my hand over the 40-150. I'm going to let y'all in on a little secret with me. If I hit the lottery, I will do a lot more street photography. It's just that I want to see wildlife first. So if I go to India, I want to see tigers and elephants and stuff first before I do street photography. But you put me in a true, like, third world, second world market, even if some places a first world real market, I want to shoot that. You know why? Because I'm not as good at it as other things, and I like the challenge. I like trying to get better at things. I just like that challenge. Crazy, isn't it? I don't know. Good morning, Brent. Thank you for joining me, Paso. Yeah, if you can do Monterey in 2026. And Elise is an awesome photographer. She's a Tamron ambassador. She goes by Bender. We have a good time together. She's a hoot, and she's an excellent photographer. She shoots Sony bodies with Tamron lenses. And man, she's a really creative photographer. If you want to learn about close-up flower photography, you don't come to me. You go to Bender. She's a very creative photographer. I really respect her as a photographer. So John asked this question. John, What kind of arm chest exercises do you recommend to help improve holding the camera and lens? So there's two things I'm doing. My ManFlow Yoga, which is online. So let me type this in here, ManFlow Yoga. The amount, okay, and guys, some of y'all have heard this before, right? Y'all know 5 years ago I would have made fun of yoga. Don't go to some, listen, I got to be careful. No, I don't. You don't want some studio that does all the frou-frou shit. You don't need a bowl to rub, and you don't need to chant shit. You just need the exercise. And ManFlow Yoga cuts through all that. And he does the workout in ways for men. Our hips are not like women's hips. You ever look at yoga and think, I can't do that? I couldn't either, guys. I was 88 pounds heavier when I started. Okay? I can do things now I never dreamed of. My upper body strength, my back strength, my arms grew tremendously. I have, however, bought, you see those are dumbbells that are adjustable. And I've got over here, I have a reclining, I can, a changeable position bench. I used to do CrossFit and lift heavy. The problem for me is lifting heavy. I'm risking injury. I get injured. I can't work. Okay. So a good combination, particularly for us older guys, you don't want to risk getting seriously injured. ManFlow Yoga, which I highly recommend. You start off at the beginner level. You're not even doing full poses. You're doing, like, I probably look like a tortoise on my back at times trying to do crap. I could not do Happy Baby, which is a position you guys do not want me to show you me doing it. But now I can do it. Holy crap. And it took me a while, but it's amazing how quickly you progress in strength and flexibility. But I've added the dumbbell workouts. And if you look up a simple workout routine like Body for Life, you don't need complicated stuff, guys. But I will tell you, lack of physical strength and flexibility affects way too many of my clients. Way too many. They can't do the things they need to do for the shots they want from that, okay? Highly recommend a daily exercise routine. But don't, man, listen, guys. I mean, there was a time I deadlifted 500 pounds in CrossFit. I have a video on my Facebook of me doing, I think, 465 before I hit the 500. I love that kind of stuff, but I am not going to risk getting injured at this point to lift heavy because that's what I enjoy. Okay. Zoran said he's been reading the book on exposure. Yeah, that was Brian Peterson, who just passed away. What a shame, man. The guy did all kinds of photography. Brian Peterson, I think it's on the 4th edition or 5th of Mastering Exposure. Brilliant book. Absolutely brilliant book on exposure. So Birds in Flight, guys, I've got a Winter in Big Bend workshop that'll be wildlife and landscape. That's any system. That's coming up in January of 2026. I've got Mastering Manual Exposure for landscapes, OM only, because of our live highlight alerts. We're going to do that this fall, and that'll be landscape. We're going to talk about when do you use the built-in graduated neutral density filter on the OM1 Mark II? When do you use a neutral density filter? How do you balance an exposure? When do you do HDR, high dynamic range? When do you do auto exposure bracketing? Post-processing. We'll look at when do you have to blow some items out in a landscape image? What should be your priority for exposure in different landscape scenes? Now, those two Big Bend, they will require you to walk a little ways on some very rough things. I've had some clients show up who basically were immobile, and you cannot do Big Bend that way. I can't punish the rest of the group for people that aren't able to hike or get off the road and maybe scramble a few places. It's an awesome place, great photography. It's incredible for learning manual exposure for landscape. So keep watching my website, Lehoy Photography. I've done a big overhaul. Another thing I'm going to be doing soon, I'm going to set up a full day where I'm going to give you a discounted rate for a 1-hour photo critique or online class. So I will fill up to 8 hours in a day. I will have designated times. You will have to show up for that time, but I'll probably have a significantly discounted rate where I'll just spend a full day giving 1-hour class, because right now my minimum is 3 hour. Okay. So watch for that. I'll pick some dates that I can do that for you, because I know not everybody can afford a workshop. Not everybody can afford a mentorship program, but maybe you can afford a 1-hour class to learn a lot. So look for that. Guys, I appreciate you joining me today. We're at 1 hour and 29 minutes, and I'd hope to go about an hour and a half today. You guys know I could go 8 hours. I love this stuff. I actually enjoy the lives more than I do even doing my regular videos, because I get to answer the questions you have at that time. So tell you what I'd like for you to do, guys, on this live stream, YouTube, or sending me an email or whatever. Give me some topics that you would like to see for YouTube videos. Remember, guys, it can't be things that I need, 3 days to cover, like how do you expose for birds. I mean, it has to be subjects that are conducive to like a 5 to 15, 20-minute video. So send that to me. Again, I really appreciate your time. I've had a really good time today. Looking forward to the next one. My next one is coming up. My next YouTube Live, guys, will be... Rob Trek. I'm going to be joining Rob Trek on next Sunday. I'll be talking about the mentorship program and mastering your system a little bit. I will also have my own video that comes out on next Sunday. So the 25th, I'll be joining Rob Trek on his channel. June 8th, on my channel, I will have another YouTube Live. And I think I'm going to do a YouTube Live from Brazil with Easiana. I will be in Curitiba. I rented I think a 12th or 14th floor apartment there. So I may do a YouTube Live from Brazil. I might talk a little bit about the street photography, because we're going to go to some markets there. I'm going to go visit an Atlantic coast rainforest there. So I'll have some good stuff to talk about. Hey, guys, have a great Sunday. Thank you for joining me. Go out there and capture some visually compelling images. Take care. Bye-bye. Love you, Easiana.